The souls are literally left to go through the heavens gate, out of the zodiac, out of time, out of the world. Yes. Very interesting. And that's only a small part of the symbolism that they surround in this part of these kinds of things. Here is an interesting symbol of a summit meeting. I think it's the G7. You see the table? What's in the middle of it? There's Clinton and Blair and Mitterrand, right? And there you have the circle. Did you know that this was the original symbol that was going to be put on the dollar bill? Amaraka already means the land of the serpents. But this was the symbol that was going to be put on your dollar bill. Look at the surrounding. It wasn't put on. It was a little obvious. Now, it happens to be a fact that all of the presidents that were ever elected, it's in my book there, have direct blood ties to the kings of England, to specific monarchs. Everybody familiar with that? If you're not, you better find out. That every president who's been elected, and the ones who have not been elected, who lost, have no blood ties, or lesser blood ties. Every president of America, see, this is meant to be a constitutional country. That's a laugh. But anyway, that's the point, is that they all have direct blood ties to British monarchs and to black nobility families. And the Sumerian state that the first human kings on earth were the offspring of custodial rulers who mated with the human women. Those matings entitled the half-human offspring to become the early monarchs of the earth. Get this book, Gods of Eden. I think Ted might be carrying it. The Sumerian state that the first human kings were the offspring of the monarchs of the earth, of the custodial rulers. He's telling you everything in that 5 lines, what we've just been talking about today. The laying out of the red carpet. I thought that was just for royal families. Clinton walks on one. Bush walks on one. Reagan walked on the red carpet. Cutting the red tape, right? Getting through all the red. I'm in the red, you know, when you're in the red. What is this bit about the red? And then the walking on the red carpet signifies the bloodline. That's why they roll a carpet out for the Queen of England, to say that she is of the royal bloodline. But your presidents are walking on it. That's symbolism for something. They're telling you we're the bloodline. We're not independently elected. We work for the same establishment. We walk on the red carpet. Thomas More, 15th century, the time we're talking about, everywhere. He was the man who was executed. He wrote the book Utopia. You know the book Utopia? You studied in school. He wrote this, and listen what he said. Everywhere do I perceive a certain conspiracy of rich men seeking their own advantage under the name and pretext of the Commonwealth. It's so old, it's new. Well, let's try. I'd love to get through this. To give you an idea of the kind of characters that have been ruling us. The 14th century Plantagenet Richard II, one of the most unpredictable of the English kings, after an unsuccessful peasants' revolt, this is familiar to anyone who studied British history, declared to his Saxon underlings, God omnipotent is mustering in his clouds on our behalf armies of pestilence, that they shall strike your children yet unborn. Look at that line. They will strike your children yet unborn and unbegot, that lift your vassal hands against my head, and threat the glory of my precious crown? You wretches, detestable on land or sea, you will seek equality with lords, and are unworthy to live. Give this message to your colleagues. Rustics you were, and rustics you are still. You will remain in bondage, not as before, but incomparably harsher. For as long as we live, we will strive to suppress you, and your misery will be an example for posterity. However, we will spare your lives if you remain faithful. So choose now which course you want to follow. These are just a small example of the people that have been ruling this world. And their cohorts, like this character, philosopher Malthus, who advocated the eradication of the lower elements of society. He proposed wars, epidemics, and famines, to thin out the herd. He especially wanted to control the sexual reproduction of the underclasses. Darwin embraced these ideas. Herbert Spencer. While Darwin got the credit, the leading proponent of this chilling racial evolutionary theory was Herbert Spencer, whose ideas were based on race. Only one race is capable of ascending to the highest level of the evolutionary spiral. The others will be left behind. We all think he's talking about some Aryans or something like that. Because remember, to cover the racial, remember we're talking about the serpent race? To cover that up, that you want to actually find out what they're really talking about, they've done this number with the whole Aryan Anglo-Saxon, they're the superior race bit, which holds no water and is not true. Sure, they're wonderful people, very cultured and all of that, but so are a lot of others. That's another whole smoke screen to make sure you never find out what race they really mean, or they're really talking about. the checkerboard, and how the administrators of the Masons will use the checkerboard, like your police. And here's a symbol from Abbey Road, the Beatles, walking on the checkerboard. Don't have time to go into why that was. And some people have asked me, how come it is, that we're so behind in this game? How come, we are, like, not knowing any of this? And I use this anecdote of a game of chess. If I bring up Chess Master up here and ask him, what are the principles by which I can become a master of the game of chess, he'll say these 4 things. He'll say that you need a sense of patience. Now, if you don't have patience, don't even try to begin the game to learn it. He'll say you need a sense of timing. If you don't have a sense of timing, don't open the book. You have to have knowledge of your opponent, right? And then the 4th one that they'll tell you is that you need to have the willingness to make any and all sacrifices. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why are the dark side winning the game? It's because they got infinite patience. They've been working on one thing for 50,000 years. I call that patience. They got a brilliant sense of timing because they know all about the astrology and the divination that we forgot, that our agricultural ancestors all knew about. Well, we're with the Julian calendar and we're not interested in any of that stuff anymore. We're slaves of the watch, but we don't know about the higher time to rule our own lives by it. They have amazing knowledge of you, right? They have intense knowledge of us, their enemies. And the 4th one is the clincher, isn't it? Because they're willing to make any and all sacrifices when and wherever they need to do it. It's as simple as that. And they are the game players. They even use that symbol in their own lodges. Now, I'm not saying that the average Freemason is involved in this. Of course not. We're talking about an extremely elite group that has permeated and infiltrated these groups in the 17th century. Now, Freemasonry uses the symbol of the G in the center. See that? Well, G is often and usually in ancient times depicted like this. What does that look like? Yeah. So people have gone into what does the G in Freemasonry mean? One of its more esoteric meanings is to do with this. And these are the symbols of technology. People who have not understood this, the rule and the compass, they do represent everything that a normal Freemason will tell you. I'm not saying that. But they are the symbols of technology, which is what the agenda was, and inside it is the serpent symbol. Don't believe me? Look how they're using it again in just a simple logo. What is this for? Look what the title is at the bottom. Everybody see that? Yeah. Simply telling us things that we just pass by and not think of. Recognize that? The serpent. Through money. Remember we said we came together to get the resources of the world so they could get on with their agenda? And that wave symbol, that wave, or that serpent-like symbol, is found in many, many things. You've seen this logo many times. What does this look like? What does this word say? Say it out loud, somebody. If you add the phoneme S-E-R on the beginning of that, what do you get? Because Pentium doesn't mean anything in English, does it? It's Latin for the 5 room. Yeah, the room of the 5, or the level of the 5th. Pentagrams are very important. It's because it has to do with the pentagon. The pentagon is the 5th shaped room. So Pentium and Microsoft are funded by the Pentagon, who are funded by whatever behind that. But the word Pentium has a, you put on the S-E-R on the front of that, and that will tell you what's going on. Gateway. Remember we talked about the gateway? Intel Inside. Have you ever noticed how many of their corporate logos is a door, a little bit ajar? How many times you notice the portal? Even the Pentium 2 logo looked like a doorway. They always use a symbol of a doorway to get out of something. Check into the logos. They're very interesting. There's one point here that the British royal family used the Malta cross and the dove. And everyone goes, oh, the dove. You know, symbol of Jesus and the Holy Spirit. No, it isn't. The word in Latin or Spanish for dove is columb, right? From which we get Columbia. So America was called Columbia, founded by Christopher Columbus, District of Columbia, Columbia Records, Columbia Pictures, Columbia. Isn't it interesting that all your drugs come from Columbia, South America? Yeah, you know, if you find out who's running Columbia and who named it, you'll know why they're sending the drugs from there. British Columbia and Columbus. Well, there was a magician who was working for this black nobility called Giuseppe Balsamo, known more poetically as Count Cagliostro. He had